It's another adventure with HiddenIncaTours.com. And just for your interest, my book about Tiwanaku and Puma Punku is available at Amazon.com and on my website. So here we are in the state-of-the-art teleférico system in La Paz, Bolivia, with author Antonio Portugal. We were just on the orange line, and now we're walking into the terminal to catch the blue line. And the blue line takes us all the way to the edge of La Paz and the city of El Alto, making the trip to Puma Punku and Tiwanaku that much shorter. So this is your first glimpse of Puma Punku. There are two of the famous H blocks, of which there are 9 in total. And this is an ancient gate. Here you're looking at the foundation blocks at Puma Punku. One of them weighs 131 tons. And this, again, gives you a sense of the size of these foundation blocks. Massive red sandstone slabs. And then there, in the center, you can see that one has sunken into the ground. This is a massive andesite slab. And this is the remains of a broken H block. And here are 4 of the H blocks in a row. So this shows you the detail of one of the H blocks. You see the false door in the center, and then another false door shape below. Now the one next to it was never finished because you can see the surface is rougher and there is no false door in the center, either in the top or the bottom, showing us Puma Punku was never completed. And now I'm examining using a Tesla meter, and this shows that there are magnetic anomalies on the H blocks. The normal background is 23.5 microteslas, and you can see that the H block is quite complicated in terms of its magnetism, which is a curiosity that I'm doing further work on. Also, when we use a compass in the center of the H block, you pull it backwards and you see it dramatically shifts by 90 degrees and then another 90 degrees and even more. Then as we take the compass along the front surface, you can see magnetic anomalies once again. And this is simply an overview of all of the different shapes and sizes of the stones at Puma Punku. They've been lined up by archaeologists. They are not in their original position, and that honestly destroys a lot of the evidence because we don't know where these different blocks were originally found. Also, with this very curious and unique block, you see that channel that's carved into it, as if a router did it. And drill holes which are very evenly spaced. So when we take the magnet, you can see again major magnetic anomalies occurring. Probably more than simply the geology of the stone. And then when we take the magnet and go down, you can see there is no change in the magnetism, which is curious. Here we see the keystone cuts of various shapes and sizes found at Puma Punku. And again, an overview of the area with some of the H blocks in the background. The quarry is 9 miles away for the red sandstone. And you can see where the excavation has been done in places. It literally looks like a cataclysm destroyed Puma Punku thousands of years ago. And evidenced here by stones that were broken up actually to make the railway bed nearby. And once again, this is an overview of the site. And here we see strange scorching on some of the stone. The scorching appears to be very intense heat, not a local fire, but possibly cataclysmic heat. And as we walk within the perimeter, again, you see the different shapes and sizes. This is another one of the gates. There appear to be 5 of them at Puma Punku. Originally, I thought there were 4. And again, the gray burn marks that appear to be ancient scorching. The glyphs or relief carving was done by the Tiwanaku culture between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, but they were not responsible for the original construction because of the size and detail work of the shaping of the stone. It could not have been done by a Bronze Age culture. And here on some of the red sandstone blocks, again, you see this curious scorching and actual melting of the stone, turning the red sandstone into a blackened, almost glass-like material. And this is the perimeter of Puma Punku, the so-called pyramid of Puma Punku. And you notice the 4 distinct layers of red sandstone. But then interlocked are andesite blocks which are highly magnetic. Most of it has been removed or was done so in the past centuries to build the local town. But I suspect because of the magnetic layer that the whole structure of Puma Punku's border perimeter was magnetic. And then as we walk down into the excavation, you see that some layers of Puma Punku were buried at one point in mud. And this is evidenced by blocks that are sticking out of the ground that would have originally been part of the Puma Punku complex. Contrast that work with this, which was done by the Tiwanaku culture between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, simply recycling broken parts of Puma Punku. And there you see a keystone cut, and we're looking up again at the perimeter. And notice how the left-hand side was completely destroyed. It's unlikely that this destruction was simply quarrying by the local people, but a devastating cataclysm occurred, and then the people simply recycled the stone. That is Lake Titicaca in the background. And here we have the original staircase, which would have led to Lake Titicaca when it was 100 feet higher. In this part of the video, you see the extremely heavy weathering of the red sandstone. And then in the foreground, you see that the Tiwanaku culture repaired it by using stone from Puma Punku, recycling. And that is Cerro, where the andesite is from, 70 kilometers away, or about 45 miles. This shows you that the back of the H blocks were not the same and are not the same, so they were not created en masse. Each was hand done. So this was filmed in September of 2017. We returned again in October of 2017, and we'll be returning again in November 2017 with author Robert Boval. And our thanks to Eduardo at Atlantis, Bolivia for the transportation. We are now in Tiwanaku itself, and this is what is called the Akapana Pyramid, which is 7 layers. Here again, on top, we're testing the magnetism, and you can see that it's varying quite wildly on this block of gray andesite. And then here again on another block next to the first one. And then on top of these 2 blocks. Again, it's not likely that this is simply the magnetism of the stone, the way that it was created by nature. But it's very likely that the original builders chose this andesite from 70 kilometers away because of its magnetic properties and likely enhanced it somehow. And off of the Akapana Pyramid, as we're wandering through the Tiwanaku site, these curious shapes. The design is called a chacana, but as you can see, it's interesting, the depressions in it. This work was never completed because the corners are not crisp, they're rounded. So there appear to be 2 different tools involved. One almost like a sandblaster, and then the other one a refining tool that made the very sharp angles. And like at Puma Punku, we find blocks sticking into the ground at angles, as if the site was hit by a massive cataclysm of some kind. Once again, it's time to test with the compass. And we're getting some interesting variation to some degree on this block. And then on the adjacent block, again, you see quite a bit of variation in the magnetism. And finally, a trip to Tiwanaku is not complete without visiting the most famous aspect of the site, which is the ancient Sun Gate. The Sun Gate, as we approach, you can see was snapped in 2, again likely by an ancient cataclysm, not by the Spanish simply knocking it over, because when they found it, it was already broken. And another point is the front side is more finely finished than the back side here, and that's because the Sun Gate had been lying down on its front for probably thousands of years, and the backside shows the excessive weathering from rain and from sun and from the wind. These are related books at Amazon.com. The Enigma of Tiwanaku and Puma Punku, A Visitor's Guide. Lost Ancient Technology of Peru and Bolivia. AFTERSHOCK, the ancient cataclysm that erased human history. And Elongated Skulls of Peru and Bolivia. Many elongated skulls have been found at Puma Punku and Tiwanaku. And these are upcoming 2018 Hidden Inca tours you can attend. Mexico, a study of many of the ancient pre-Columbian civilizations, including the Maya and Olmec in January. In March, we return to Egypt for our 6th annual trip. Only 9 spaces available on this tour. The Inti Raymi Inca celebration in Cusco, including a trip to Tiwanaku and Puma Punku and beyond. Our annual Elongated Skulls of Peru tour in August. And Croatia and Bosnia in October and early November of 2018.